Thank you very much for registering an interest in updating the existing content that's on One. So what we're going to be covering in a nutshell is learning how to update the skeleton of the One intranet, which is a very strange way to describe an intranet. With One, we had a load of collaborative or social capability brought with it. We've got the ability to have communities with forums, with blogs, to be sharing files, to create wikis. Lots of different types of tools we've been given. But when you log into One in the morning, you will notice there's always some content which isn't collaborative content. It isn't many-to-many type information that people can have conversations within and bat ideas back and forth. You'll note that in areas such as the news here, that this is one-to-many communications. That this is information that someone in an internal comms area have put into place on One for many people to go away and read. Similarly, information in my workspace, lots and lots of tools for people to do their jobs, whether they're looking to order travel, to put through expenses, to have some reference information. Again, it's content that you wouldn't want anyone in an organisation to update. That's certainly true of Employee Corner as well. All your terms and conditions in terms of your contract at AXO within here, along with all information on rewards and benefits, health, safety. It's very jealously guarded and locked down. Only a few people can update this for obvious reasons. News we've mentioned, and then there's About Us as well. So lots of content relating to the financial side of things, or the organisation and governance, different team type content. There's an awful lot on there that only subject matter experts should be updating. And that in a nutshell is what we're going to be covering in this short course, is just how, in terms of that static content which constitutes a skeleton, that yes, all the collaborative stuff can hang off, but it's still a fixed skeleton. We're going to cover how you, as a subject matter expert, can update that. So if you feel that that describes yourself, that you're wishing to update some of those pages, then please continue with the course. If not, please let your local intranet manager know, or leave a note on the community that you were added to that enabled you to start on this course. In terms of what we're covering, it'll be self-directed learning, and it will be 35 minutes spread over 2 videos with a little exercise at the end. The exercise will take about 20 minutes, so I would estimate it'll take about an hour to get you started, just being able to tweak, being able to update those pages. If, however, what you want to do is above and beyond that, you want to be creating brand new pages or moving content that's already there around the structure, that would be a separate course. And again, in that case, please leave a message within the community and we can get you on that more advanced training course. So what we're going to cover, we've covered the background with the first item for this agenda, and I've explained about what authoring is and how this course is the right option for you if you're looking to update that static skeleton. We'll talk about the authoring community in a moment, your first port of call for authoring, and then we're going to cover some common tasks. And those of you who are Word or Outlook users will know an awful lot of this. And then lastly, we'll talk about saving, closing, and then viewing your changes on One once you've made them. Video 2, which comes after this one, unsurprisingly, we'll be covering some additional buttons that you may not have seen before. We'll be talking about snippets, which might be new terminology, but I'll be covering those in a little bit of detail. and then we'll be concluding with thinking about the what. So never mind the how. I'm going to tell you the how, but it's just the what. Sometimes just because you can put content on a page and display it on the screen doesn't mean that it's always done in the most intuitive way to the user, and that's what we look to focus on. So first of all, as I say, the authoring community is your first port of call. So when you're added on as a delegate to this course, you're added to some communities. You've probably got a few notifications. If you go into My Communities going forward, you'll have a whole list of all communities that you're part of. I'm a member of 156, a ridiculous amount. You probably find that you've got fewer. But you can do, if you do see an awful lot of communities there, you can quickly do a search and you can just narrow it down and find that author community. And there it is, UK 1 Wickham Authors Community. Now I highly recommend that this point here, you add this as a bookmark, either within your Internet Explorer itself, or ideally, if you add it, copy that URL, you can add it as a bookmark onto your one homepage. So I've copied the URL there, and if I was to then click on add a bookmark, I would be able to then add it there and paste in that URL that I just copied. I've actually already got it set up, so I'll just simply click on, and here we are. And in this community, there are two very important bookmarks right at the top there, top right. One's the authoring manual, which we're going to need as a reference for video 2. Please don't do what a lot of users do and very conscientiously print off the manual and try to digest and learn it. To be quite frank with you, there's an awful lot in there. It's about 50 pages long and it covers lots of things such as alerts on the homepage, news items, video templates, a lot of which aren't actually applicable for the majority of users. So I would recommend you have it there as a reference, and indeed I'll show you as part of the second video, but I wouldn't recommend that you try and learn it off by heart. But what we're actually looking at is the second URL. This is the authoring URL for updating of web content within the authoring environment. A really long name, but that's because I'm just hammering home the fact that this is the URL that you get into the habit of clicking on whenever you want to go into the authoring environment. So I'm going to click on it. So what's the authoring environment, you might ask, as this seems to be loading? Well, whenever you want to make changes to one, you have the option to go into a mirror. So the version of one that you log into in the morning has a URL of one.axa.com. Now this particular environment that I've just clicked on here is author.one.axa. You can see that actually I'm in a separate environment, and this is one that I can actually change. Whenever I make any changes on this authoring environment, they will then get copied into that live or production environment, whatever you wish to call it, but basically the version of one that you see by default when you log in the morning. All your changes will then be copied into that environment within 15 minutes. It's a 15-minute cycle. Sometimes it'll be a minute, sometimes it'll be 15 minutes. Let's click in and look at a few pages. And you'll note as you progress through the site that there's a tiny little drop down on the pages. Blink and you miss it. Tiny little drop down. That's the main difference in the authoring environment. Let's do it on another page. At the moment, you as a trainee author will only actually see that drop down on the training pages. I see it on all of them because I've been through the training and I have access to all the various pages. Initially you'll see it on the training pages. When you've then completed these 2 videos in the exercise, you will then have this same drop down added to pages that you need to be able to update. Let's go into the training pages. There's a shortcut to this within the community, but My Workspace, IT and Technical Assistance, One Intranet, One Authoring Training section. Now within here, I would have created for you in advance a child, so that you can see that these children pages here, training pages 1 through to 7, there will be an additional one with your initials or your name in it. And I'd like you to click into it. And when you do, you'll see content and a drop down. A drop down will allow you to click on another training page. You'll see you've got the option to be able to update. Let's try another one. So here's a blank one. This will be how the page will look when you arrive at it. Click on the drop down and select Edit. So this is the One Authoring training section. If you scroll down, you'll see that there are children in here. And one of these children pages here, which sit within this One Authoring training section, which is a hidden section, so you can update with impunity, one of them will have your name on it. And if you click on it, because you've got access to be able to update this section, you'll have the little drop down. If you click on the little drop down and then click on edit, this page will open up, and this page actually controls the content and allows you to put in the content that will be generated onto the page. And because it's an existing page, everything's pre-populated for you. There's a display name and title here. These ones at the top are kind of system names. These aren't the actual content or copy on the page yet. There's a description where you can actually put something friendly for search engines, so you can put something that describes the page and the type of resources you have on there, and it will be displayed when people find your page while doing searches. If I scroll further down, you don't have to worry about the profiling or content properties or any of this stuff. We literally want you, as a subject matter experts or content owners or whatever you want to call it, to be able to update the content itself. The first field is here, title. Now we get into the content on the page. If I move this over slightly, you can see the blue, hopefully blue, see the blue text just behind. Training page, your name here is the blue title that I set for the page. Best practice is to keep this consistent with the name on the navigation. So it should be the same as the copy, as the fields above. And then the next one down is the content itself. And if you click into this, you might get a prompt asking if you want to run something. You might see a Java, as you can see now, installing. If you're asked any questions, click on yes and allow it to run. And what you can see is the content on the page here is updatable. So in the authoring environment, it has allowed you to open up in this interface the content and allow you to update it. So if I delete this, you can see that you can start working with content in a very similar way to Word. So you can see there's a spell checker. You can search for text on the screen, copy paste as per Word. You can undo and redo. You can make text so it's aligned in a certain way. And then there are 4 buttons here, which are probably looking familiar. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to cover these as part of video 2. We'll come back to these. You can assign different headings and choose headings and different styles. It's kind of locked down because one automatically renders the copy in a certain way, so it's consistent anyway. So there are only limited options here compared to what you might be used to in Word. You can select bold, italics and underline things, and you can format your page so that it can be left aligned, center aligned or right. By default we tend to recommend that left alignment looks best. Bulleted lists, numbered list, in moving the indents left and right, highlighting of text, and to be sparsely used, please, text color, so you can actually tweak text color. So just to conclude this demonstration, I'm going to paste in a sample Word document here. This is quite often how people update the pages. They create it in advance in Word and then paste it in here. So you can use the usual Control-C, Control-V, or right-click, copy, right click paste, and then once the content's here, you can work with it. Pasting in from Word of the images does work, but it can create variable results you might find. So I'm going to remove that out, and we're going to cover images and video too. You can see that automatically it's checking the spelling for you, and that automatically it's rendering the content. So now I've put this into the editor. I'm going to, if applicable, drop in related information. So if I want to be able to have some content on the right hand side of this page, this particular one doesn't at the moment, I will put it here. This is not mandatory, you don't have to do this. So I've gone into an existing page in authoring that I've got rights to, I've made some changes, and all I then have to do is save and close, nothing else. And once you've clicked on save and close, because this is already a published item, it's already there, it already exists, it will then take your content and then present it for you. And that will then be live on one within 15 minutes. That is inline editing at its most basic. Being able to go in, work with copy, paste it in. And it's a very useful tool in terms of being able to quickly update stuff on the skeleton of that intranet. So to recap, authoring community, click on the authoring URL and then save and close to view your changes, and it's then live. And that is the end of video 1. We will continue on video 2, which will cover those 4 buttons which we haven't covered yet, and it will also cover the use of snippets as well, which I will explain and describe in some detail in video 2. But in terms of video 1, that is inline editing. Thank you for listening so far, and I will speak to you more in video 2.